Good evening. I am Theresa May at the 6 o'clock BBC News. Headlines of today are that cows are escaping the local zoos. However, our focus today is on the respiratory system and how we are affecting it.
Good evening. I'm Samantha and I'm going to explain the mechanisms of breathing. As you can see, the upper arm in grey represents the intercostal muscles and the ribs. The lower arm represents the diaphragm. This represents someone who has breathed in. The intercostal muscles are relaxed and so is the diaphragm, which is arched. As they breathe in, the diaphragm tightens to create a straight line and the intercostal muscles move the rib cage upwards and outwards. As you can see, this area has become a lot larger. This means that the pressure is a lot lower and so air is forced inwards to keep that pressure equal. Then as they breathe outwards, this area has got a lot smaller, so this is very high pressure. This then pushes all the air outwards to make the pressure equal.
The lungs are protected by the ribs so that they do not get squashed. There is a pleural membrane around the lungs which is like of a mucus substance which protects them from any friction on the ribs.
Now I shall explain how we get oxygen into the body. First it enters through the nose or the mouth, then it goes through the trachea, into the divides in between the two bronchi, and then into bronchioles, and then into aveoli. Then in the alveoli, as the walls are only 1 cell thick, oxygen transfuses into the bloodstream in the capillaries in the alveoli, and so does carbon dioxide, and that is how oxygen gets into the blood.
In gaseous exchange we have alveoli that are surrounded by lots of little capillaries. They have hemoglobin running in the capillaries, which are 1 cell thick, and they exchange carbon dioxide into the alveoli, and oxygen diffuses through the walls into the capillaries, and so the hemoglobin becomes oxyhemoglobin. When we breathe in the air around us, 79% of it is nitrogen with 20% oxygen and a trace of other chemicals such as carbon dioxide. When we exhale these chemicals, the only changes that occur are 4% decrease in oxygen and a 4% increase rise in carbon dioxide. That shows how very little oxygen we actually use.
Now over to Jenny in the field, where she shall explain the short-term and long-term effects on the respiratory system.
Good evening. I am Gemma, reporting from the field, quite literally. Today I will be explaining the effects of exercise on the respiratory system. For now it will be the short-term effects. Firstly, there will be an increased rate of breathing. There will also be an increased depth of breathing, which is tidal volume. Tidal volume is the amount you breathe in or out during one breath. You also have an increased uptake of oxygen taken to the working muscles and an increased uptake of carbon dioxide being taken out of the body. You also get oxygen debt. Oxygen debt is a temporary shortage of oxygen in the body. And now we shall go on to about the long-term effects of exercise on the respiratory system. The long-term effects are made in order to make respiring more efficient. There will be an increased strength in the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. This will lead to you being able to exercise for longer over the same amount of intensity. There will be an increased number of alveoli, which will lead to a better exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide from the blood. This will lead to an increased ability of the lungs to extract oxygen from the air. There will also be an increased vital capacity. Vital capacity is the amount of air that can be forcibly expelled after someone has breathed in as far as possible. There will be an increased amount of oxygen delivered and carbon dioxide removed from the working body. This will be because there will be more red blood cells which able to make this transition faster and a lot more efficient. Overall, the lungs will increase in size due to all of these factors.
Now I, Theresa May, shall explain the effects of recreational drugs on the respirational system, such as smoking. Now I shall go into detail of the effects of these harmful chemicals in cigarettes. Now first is tar. Tar stains tissue. As you can see, this is a healthy lung, while this one is an unhealthy, diseased and stained smoker's lung. Hydrogen cyanide stops the cilia from working properly in the trachea from removing poisonous chemicals from the lungs. This can lead to dangerous build-ups. Next, there's carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide reacts better with hemoglobin, better than oxygen. This leads to carbon monoxide replacing oxygen in the bloodstream. This can lead to a lack of oxygen in the blood, meaning that many organs are starved. This is very poisonous. Then there are free radicals. Free radicals react with cholesterol, creating plaques in the arteries. This leads to high blood pressure that could lead to heart attacks, strokes, and blood vessel disease. Now I shall explain the effects of smoking, such as increased risk of lung infection, as you are more susceptible to disease. There are also more chance of permanent damage to the lungs and to the air sacs, which are the alveoli, which do the transfusion of oxygen. There will also be a reduced lung function, which can lead to breathlessness, and a narrowing of the arteries and swelling of the arteries. There will also be excess mucus. Due to damage of the lungs' clearance system, such as the cilia, this will lead to build-up of poisonous substances in the lungs.